of the land somewhere in Ado-Ekiti, a woman who is well vested with a whole lot of things. She's an actress, she's an educationist, she's a mother, she's a philanthropist, but please permit me as I simply introduce her as Princess Badewa Williams. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. I started by reading off some of the things I know about you. I'm sure there are a whole lot of other things we'll get to unfold in the course of the program. But I'm particularly interested. When we say actress, a lot of people will think, okay, it's Nollywood. But I know you were with Hollywood at the time. Can you share that experience with us?
Definitely. I moved to Los Angeles, actually from Jacksonville, Alabama, in 1985. I had initially studied film acting, drama, and English from Jacksonville. Then I moved to California to pursue my acting career. In California, I did a lot of stage acting predominantly because it was quite difficult for Africans to break into the film industry at that time. However, with the exposure to theater, I was eventually getting called to audition for film projects, and I did a couple of film projects while I was in Hollywood.
All right, so it was a bit difficult for Africans to break through, but you did it. Can you share the particular experience that threw you into it perfectly?
It was persistence. You just have to be persistent, because when you keep going, you will definitely achieve something. When I started out, they were always relegating me to roles of maids. They say you should just audition as a maid. I wasn't going to be a maid. I wanted to break through as a breakthrough actress. So I fought that to an extent, and that was why I started directing myself, in productions.
Oh, you were directing
I was directing as well. So what also happened was a lot of us Nigerians in the industry at that time, we decided to just get ourselves together and just focus on productions, on us. A challenge we had was auditioning for American films. They would say, if you go to audition as an African, they were telling me that I didn't sound African. And on the other hand, they would hire Americans who were not Africans. So it's like, who really is the true African here? And then when we tried auditioning as Americans, they would still say, oh, your name is Badewa, where is that from? You are not an American, and that became hindrances. And at that point, I actually was using a pseudonym to act. But when I saw that they were trying to suppress my identity, I refused. I put on my resume that my name is Badewa Adejugbe. At that time, I wasn't married. So we got ourselves together and started putting productions together for ourselves to just depict our culture. And eventually that caught on. And I'm happy to say that now Africans are doing very well in Hollywood. Okay. But we broke the doors down.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I know that a lot of us have moved from the Nollywood to the Hollywood, and you're doing so well. Maybe with time too, you could get to have a feel of that again. But I know that back to Nigeria, you have an attachment with the Abuja Film Village.
Yes.
What exactly are you doing? Are you producing?
Actually, I was brought back to Nigeria by the Abuja Film Village International Limited. My MD, Mr. Shegun Yekunle, he and I were in Hollywood together. We were actually at UCLA together. And we were about to produce I was about to produce a script that he had written. We had put together all the technical crew, trying to put the financing together to produce this film. It's very, very, it's one of those films that will just make a lot of money once it's made. But, he came to Nigeria to meet the then Honorable Minister of FCT, Dr. Modibo, who presented him the job, who gave him the job as managing director. And Dr. Modibo told him to go and get his staff together, recruit whoever he needs to make sure it runs, and he came to me. So here I am as the general manager for the Abuja Film Village International Limited.
All right. I know again that you're doing well. Congratulations. Sometimes I move around the environment and I'm pleased with what I see. But then, before you moved down to Nigeria, other things happened to you. Definitely. I know you went to school back again to study education. Having been in Hollywood, for such a long time, one would be wondering, what else is she looking for? You went back and moved completely off your terrain, off your arena, and went to study education. What sparked up that?
Motherhood.
Motherhood?
Yes,
Oh.
we may have plans for our lives, but things tend to happen. At that time, I had a production company called TKI Productions, and then I started another one called Ladama Pictures Incorporated, just to focus on films.
All of that was
Because
in
I
the
had
US?
children in the U.S.
Okay.
And while my children were growing, especially my twins actually, I noticed that they were having some impediments, learning impediments. They were developmentally delayed. They were not speaking as others were. They had a difficult time understanding lessons. They were not comprehending, and it was just difficult. So I had them assessed, and it was determined they had a developmental disability called mental retardation at that time. And that just took me aback. I was in shock for a very long time. I was in denial. I wasn't going to accept it. So I started going with them to the schools to observe them in school. Then I actually realized that they were struggling. So we had to place them in a different kind of setting. And upon doing further research in trying to see how I could help my children, I just automatically enrolled in school. And I started learning about education, especially special education. And I found myself becoming an educator. So that was how my life changed. I had one vision, but then they took me in the other direction. And of course, as Africans, we try to excel, wherever it is we are. So while I was teaching, I wanted to be the best I could be. So I kept furthering and furthering my education in that capacity until I became a doctor in education.
Education, that's interesting. Now, you having gone to read this, to help your children, did it really make much of impact, just out of curiosity?
It made tremendous impact.
Okay.
And that's actually why I'm back in a capacity focusing on education as well now. Because while I was in the classrooms, the children were actually achieving the students I was teaching. Even till today, some still contact me. Parents contact me to say thank you. You have to really have empathy in the classroom, and especially when you are dealing with children with diverse neurological disorders, you must be able to relate that. And as a mother, I took that part of me into the classroom. So I became not just a teacher, I became their advocate, I became their crusader. I was speaking for them and teaching them how to speak for themselves, teaching them how to think for themselves, and they were steadily improving. And this was actually evident in the standardized assessments. My students actually made more gains academically within the span of their levels as opposed to other children in the school. So there was definite evidence that they were improving.
That's interesting. Coming from the acting world to the education world, very interesting. If you can do it, then I definitely can do it.
And there's also a correlation too. I took acting into the classroom.
Oh, really?
I became practically an actress while teaching, because there's a methodology called total physical response where you must actually act it out. So we were doing a lot of acting out in class.
I know when things are translated into drama, it's easier to understand.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay. Now, back to Nigeria. Someone told me you started something for people who are challenged,
Yes.
young people who are challenged, more like a school too.
Yes.
And it's absolutely free. I haven't been able to, share that views with you, more like a philanthropy stuff.
Actually, yes, I'll take that back. It's not completely free because they must pay for some therapeutic activities.
Okay.
It's a learning center. It's not a conventional school. All the academics, of course, are definitely free. But the children have diverse needs that cannot just be dealt with just with academics. They need educational therapy. Some of them need physiotherapy, speech and language therapy. Some of them need occupational therapy. We do all kinds of therapeutic activities to assist them. And we're also doing a lot of advocacy, talking to the community and doing a lot of free stuff, seminars, trainings of teachers and parents and caregivers on how to deal with these children, because they need to be empowered. They need to be included in society. We're calling for absolute total inclusion. They can make contributions to the world, so we need to let them. So that's what my foundation is all about, giving them the access.
Is that right? Well, I'm going to move with you to look at this foundation and what you're doing. But before I do that, I'm going to try to find out, you're a princess, I mean, was it that easy for a princess, at the time you did, to go into the Hollywood? How did your parents take it? I mean, eventually, when you had challenges with the kids, how did your family take it?
Okay. Well, when I first moved back to when I moved to the US, I told my parents I wasn't going to study theater because they were like, "No, you cannot study theater. You must be a lawyer. You are so smart and this and that. We don't want you on stage," even though I was always on stage while growing up. So I compromised. I studied English and theater. So I had double major. So I satisfied them and I satisfied me. And when they saw, they were always reading about me in the newspaper in Nigeria because some journalists would come to the California or to the US generally, and they heard about me, would interview me, so they were reading about me. So they were impressed. So they let me be. And then with my children, I'm very lucky to have a family that just embraces everyone. When I was growing up, our house was not just our house, it was everybody's house. So we're always used to seeing different people. So my children had challenges, they were just encouraging me as to what to do and how to help them. They accepted my children. They're just like anybody else, And that's the whole thing about us in my family. We accept people for who they are. And we welcome them.
That's how it should be. All right, thank you. For now, I told you we will be moving to the Learning Center to get to find out her typical day at work, what it looks like, and how she works with these challenged children. But before we do that, let's take a bit of a break.
I don't think in gender boxes at all. I just get on with it.
A man that would dare to ask the wife, "Who do you think you are?" That is a real man.
Yes. We need to have more women, more multitaskers around Nigeria to get Nigeria working.
Definitely. Okay, welcome back. I have actually relocated, but this time right at the center, the Royal Learning place for the children who are a little bit challenged, but who are great potentials here in Nigeria and even from outside Nigeria. And of course, we are having this done under the auspices of the Princess Badiwa Adejuba Williams. And she's here right with me. You're welcome again.
Thank you very much.
Like your shade of yellow.
Thank you. That color.
Okay, it's a great place. I looked from outside and was quite impressed.
Thank you very much.
I've seen a bit of the children too, but I'm wondering, it's not easy to actually run a place like this. What does it take?
It takes patience. It takes dedication. You must really have a willing heart. Otherwise, you can't do it. You must be open-minded. You must be willing to think outside the box, try the impossible, and be hopeful. You must have faith. That's what it really takes. With all those things, and with your hard work, you would start seeing results in the children.
Now, what are the greatest challenges you face with these children? I mean, is it that easy for parents to just come in and enroll their children here?
We even have waiting lists of parents who want their children here, but we don't have space.
Okay, waiting list?
Yes, we have so many children. And adults, we don't just cater to children, we cater to adults as well, Their needs are very personalized. Each child is different. There's need for assistive technology. Our program is online, it's blended learning, some online, some with teachers. We have therapists in and out every single day working with them, from speech to occupational to physio. There are also some other specializations we need that we don't have, just because we don't have the means. But beyond that, the children are fantastic.
Okay. Now, on daily basis, I know you studied this in the US and you're a practical teacher, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, how do you, when you have the very difficult ones, because I know when I went to, I think St. Vincent, somewhere in the East, some of them just didn't want to come into the classroom. How do you handle it?
Well, our teachers and our therapists are very patient. So they just really talk to them. They talk to the children. It's amazing. Sometimes we think they don't understand. They do understand. And they can read some body languages. Of course, each disability is different. We don't really have children who don't want to come. The only instance is maybe something happened in a car. Maybe somebody spoke to them in a way they didn't want. So of course, when they get here, they make that connection that it's coming here that brought about that negative interaction. However, once they come in here, they're happy. They see their teachers, they see their therapists, they see their friends, and they mill around, they socialize with each other. So it's not really the children not wanting to come. They've always wanted to come.
I'd like to know, how has it been? I mean, turning out the students so far. You've run for a little while now. What are the progress you've been able to record, the success you've been able to record?
We've had such amazing progress. We launched 2016, but we opened officially January 2017 with only 6 students. Before the end of that term, we had about 20. Right now, we have about 55 people benefiting from our project here. We've received, people just tell us within months that their children, what they notice in the children right away is the self-esteem. They feel better about themselves, they carry themselves better, they speak better, they respond better, because this is a very low anxiety environment. There's no yelling, there's no even raising your voice on a child, there's no spanking. So the ambience is very soothing. Even the colors were chosen for reasons because they have calming effects. So the children have no anxiety when they're here, and parents are able to see that. And academically, we've assessed some children. I have to assess everybody on intake because we need to have a baseline to determine if there's a significant cognitive disability or not. Then we know what their level is once they enter. Then we reassess them again. After 6 months, all the children that I reassessed have improved tremendously, to the point that some parents were even like, that's not possible. Then they came at conferences and they challenged the children in front of the teachers to either write something or say something, and the children responded.
And these were people that could not write? Or
I had people who were so pessimistic in the beginning. Parents were like, oh, we'll just give it a try, just because. And now they're like, Dr. Williams, thank you. So the children are making progress. You know, each one is different, definitely.
what is your key, a tool or methodology for these people? I mean, I've been here for a while and they're so calm. Even when the teachers are talking to them, they're so calm. What's the key tool you use?
I think it's the educational therapy aspect of it. There are not that many educational therapists in the world, so less of in Nigeria. I'm actually the only one I know of who is in Nigeria. We all belong to an association, and I'm the only one here. Educational therapy is different from being a teacher. It looks at the child holistically. Even in the classroom, teachers are supposed to look at each child holistically. We look at their strengths, and we now look at the areas of challenges or areas of needs, and we see how can we use the strengths to compensate for the challenge. So we now develop treatment plans for each child. Each child's plan is different. There's some common things everyone has to do, like the music therapy, the yoga therapy, the cognitive development therapy, the neuro movement therapy. We do all these things just to strengthen their brain, to make them calmer, to really help them with their focus and their attention. And after that, each one has its own different program it goes into or undertakes. We have like 3 or 4 adults in every classroom. The biggest classroom, we have 8 students in it. So you can imagine it's almost one-on-one. And it's hands-on.
Can we move to the classroom? Let me just have a look.
Absolutely.
All right, look forward to this. Let's go there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's move to the classroom.
So this is the cheetah class. They're the older students. They're working on some academics right now. But everything they study has to do with real life situations, either careers, vocational skills, or life skills. Right now, they read an article about connecting through cooking. So they'll read about it at different levels, and after reading about it, they'll practicalize it. They'll now go in the kitchen and actually cook something. So they'll be independent one day. They'll have to take care of themselves, so they'll need to know how to cook. So that's one of the lessons. So all our lessons are based on real life situations that they will encounter, so that they can learn about it now.
Learn to take care of themselves.
Exactly.
Nice to meet you.
We had a birthday party yesterday. It was fantastic.
Really? It was a birthday party.
Yeah.
You didn't invite me.
You
because we are not around now.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna snap you for your birthday. I'm gonna give it to your mommy. Okay.
All right.
I do say cheese.
Cheese.
All right, beautiful.
Look at it. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So happy birthday.
Thank you.
Why are you covering your face? You don't want to be on TV? My sour.
He's in charge of a dance.
Yes, he likes to dance and he likes to rap. He likes music.
Can you rap something for me? Okay, rap it.
I know I can. Be what I wanna be. If I work hard at it, I'll be where I wanna be. Be.
And the focus is on the attitude.
That's all. Okay. Thank you.
I know I can be. I work hard at it, I'll be where I wanna be.
Alright. She'll eventually be an actress, I can guarantee you that.
She's good.
Right? And you too. Right? And she is learning to make hair. And she's doing a fantastic job.
You make my hair.
So it's a hair cap and then you put it on there. Normally I don't know how to read it very well.
But the cap. The cap.
Yeah.
Okay, like this one. This is the cap.
She made one.
Oh, that's
She
good.
made one already.
That's not some inside there.
Okay, may I pass?
Okay, that's good.
Thank you. Thank you. May I pass?
All right. So what are you going to do for me?
Is an artist.
Talk now.
Talk now. Tell her what you're going to do.
You can draw. Okay, I'm going to sit down and draw for me.
She's processing. Alright. And he is also working on his visual processing skills, while at the same time working on his fine motor skills and also everything is sort of according directions. Okay? He's matching, looking, discriminating between shapes. You can tell they have different colors. And what he's working on has no color specific. So you should be able to look at each shape and figure out exactly where it goes on this sheet of paper and he'll match it to it. So choose the processing skills. So that's how they develop processing skills in real life. But should I go into that door? Is that for females or for males? You know, being able to discriminate between information. That's what I'm looking at.
Somebody's doing their job.
Now, yes.
She's not a student.
She's a teaching assistant. As you can tell, our program here is not really academic based for this classroom. So they are learning how to make things that eventually can become livelihood. We had an exhibition that showed some of the things that these children create. So it starts out like this, the teacher shows them and they themselves have to now start. They see the pattern and they start putting the different shapes together. And we laminate or we frame it and it becomes a piece of art.
And they'll have so much pride.
Yes, that's the thing. We had our exhibition, almost everything sold.
Oh,
People bought them all.
that's beautiful.
And our young man here, because he has ability to learn. You know, he's really working on his letter, sounds, identification, and he's starting to read. And beyond reading, he can now match, which is also to help his spelling. Okay, so those are the things he's been working on. And it's one of our biggest progress officers.
I see you matching a bit of the arms, the backs.
Yes.
Okay, what's your name, sir?
What's your name? What's your name? Jack. All right. Nice to meet you.
It's a beautiful job. Well, as you can see, it's a beautiful world out here. You know, people are challenged and a whole lot is produced. I'm particularly glad to be part of this environment. Thank you so much, Mrs. Thank you for doing a wonderful job. Let's keep it up. Alright, the woman ends here for now. Do join us again for another exciting moment some other time. Bye. Doctors that are not married and they are doing this incredible.
Well, there's a myriad of things. I think first of all we have to go back to
You're a writer. You are very well known for your teaching
teaching skills, your students speak a whole lot about you. Miss Nigeria competition.
I said, let's pick them up, let's take them back to Nigeria, and let's teach them a different kind of job.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
For anyone who values financial security and ultimately desires financial freedom, creating at least one additional stream is no longer a luxury, it has become a necessity. Diversifying your income stream is crucial to protect yourself and your family against the unavoidable ups and downs of economic and industry cycles. Because of the financial risk that come from relying on one source of income, such as a job or a business, consider creating at least one or more additional streams to generate cash flow. The benefits of having multiple streams of income include peace of mind because you know there will always be money to spend. Also, you will earn much more than you currently earn from your day's job. Therefore, you will live bigger and better. Your additional income streams can be active, passive, or a combination of the two. Some may pay you for doing something that you love, active, while others can provide income for you without having to do much of anything at all, passive. Here are multiple streams of income opportunities: selling information in hard book format, selling information in the form of downloadable ebooks, making money from referral opportunities, training classes, consulting opportunities, dealership opportunities, design opportunities, manufacturing opportunities, investment opportunities. The list is definitely not exhaustible. To create wealth, you must make investment that will create dependable streams of income flows, independent of your main source of income. The time to act is now. Begin implementing this practice, and before you know it, within months, you can be enjoying the benefits and the financial security and freedom that comes from having multiple streams of income.
Yes. One day as I did dab they go. Now I see my neighbor on top electric pole. No be how my hold so. Before. So climb every day. Come on electric bill. You not gree pay.
Waiting concern you for there. I beg you. Come over here.
Okay, oh. I don't talk my own. As I dab reach house. Yay! Fire! Fire! My brand new flat screen.
Hold up. Waiting concern you for there. I beg you. Come over here.
Government property, now my property. If you don't come down now, I go report.
Don't be only report. Now report card.
Dab 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 dab. Yes.
Welcome to the news trending on the hour on NTA International at this time. I am Ifoma Ojinta. The Presidential Election Petition Court has dismissed the petition filed by the Hope Democratic Party and its candidate Ambrose Owuru, seeking the cancellation of February 23rd presidential election. The five-man petition court, led by Justice Mohammed Garba, unanimously dismissed the application by the petitioners Thursday. The court maintained that the petition was a pre-election matter. The Presidential Election Petition Court also ruled that the petition was an abuse of court process, as same application is pending before the Federal High Court. The five-man Presidential Election Petition Court also ruled that referendum conducted by the petitioners was not the legal way of electing the president and the vice president in Nigeria. The Hope Democratic Party in the petition claimed that its candidate in a referendum conducted on February 16, 2019, polled 50 million votes and urged the court to declare him winner of the election. No fewer than 80 people have been rendered homeless following flood that submerged 20 houses after heavy downpour, which lasted for 3 days in Katsina metropolis. The victims, mostly from Yansulu quarters, have been provided with temporary accommodation. The Federal Ministry of Science and Technology is working with stakeholders to address ethical issues in the application of science and technology in the country. Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Bitrus Nabusu, said this at the opening of the two-day stakeholders meeting for the harmonization of the National Bioethics Committee framework and policy documents. The meeting, which is being held at the instance of the National Biotechnology Development Agency, is meant to address ethical issues emerging from advances in science and technology. And to foreign, Sudan has appointed a new prime minister as the country embarks on a 3-year transition to civilian rule. Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok says achieving peace and solving the economic crisis are top on his priority. His appointment comes as Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah Abdurrahman was sworn in as leader of the new Sovereign Council. The new government will run the country until election is conducted. Mr. Hamdok was sworn in as transitional prime minister on arrival from Ethiopia, where he worked as a respected senior economist for the UN since 2011 before stepping down last year. At least 5 European Union countries, Spain, France, Germany, Luxembourg, and Portugal, have offered to take some of the migrants who were disembarked on the Italian island of Lampedusa late on Tuesday after being stranded for weeks at sea. About 100 migrants who were on board the charity ship Open Arms were allowed to disembark after a prosecutor ordered the evacuation of the vessel. And these are the stories trending at this time. Thanks for joining us.
This is the network service of the NTA.
It's another time with you on Insights, and as usual, Omini Udenizinim and
Elizabeth Omori.
On Insight today, we shall be looking at, now that the induction retreat has been held and ministers sworn in to various portfolios, and what is expected of them. from change mantra to next level agenda, will they be able to drive it? What are the expectations of Nigeria? Let me start with Lizzie. What do you think is the look of things?
Well, I think I want to see the drama unfold and the controversies, because for some of them it's continuation, and then others it's a different ball game. So let's set the agenda. Of course, the agenda has been set. What are we going to be seeing? What are we going to be expecting? Are there going to be citizen-driven projects? Will some be abandoned? Will abandoned ones be picked up? So let's see how the drama unfolds. And my guest on the media review segment will provide answers to some of these questions. You'll see that.
So on discussion segment on ASAR, we shall be looking at, as the new ministers assume office, what? Just that, what? So sit by and take a listen to what we have for you on Inside. It promises really to be very, very insightful. Up next on the program is the discussion segment. Stay with us. The present administration took off from a change mantra and now transmuted into what is called next level agenda. How well will this next level agenda go? You will remember vividly when the ministerial lists was sent to the Senate for confirmation and screening by Mr. President, by the Senate. A lot of conversations sustained across the divide in the country. The issue of, it was not a surprise to Nigerians. It was a surprise to Nigerians. The ministers, the names would have been sent with portfolios. The issue at the point of screening, it was the issue of why are some people taking a bow and go. But we have left that now. An induction retreat has held, and the ministers will be sworn in. Now, as they get sworn into office, what next? My guests, Susan Henshaw, attorney and non-profit professional. Good to have you on Insight.
Absolutely, thank you.
And Chukwudi Enekwechi, JP, journalist and politician. It's good to have you.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure having a lawyer and a journalist. So, big question. Where do we have the next level agenda activated as the ministers assume office? Let me start with you, Susan.
Well, I honestly really think that it's still going to be the same 3 or 4 pronged security. It's going to be the economy, and what's the third one now? It's also going to be
anti-corruption.
Anti-corruption, you know. Now on the next level, of course, literally speaking, we're taking it to the next level, which means we've come out from, we've dug ourselves out of the hole, you know, we started off with. So it's really time to run now, you know. So basically that's what we're going to see going into this level with this government. And I think that all this weight with the ministers, you know, having taken, actually, frankly speaking, when you really think about it, it's not been too long of a time. You know, the president got inaugurated in May, you know, and it's June, July, we're in August now. You know, it's that reasonable time? Absolutely. You know, it's reasonable time enough for him to make absolute sure. Let me reiterate what I say every time I've been, you know, here. When you set it up well, it runs well. And let me tell you something else that I you know, personally, my thoughts have been is that in this nation, whether we like to believe it or not, there's something called the Nigerian factor. We all know what it is, you know. And so things kind of work a little differently. You know, people will tell you, oh, you know, why this, why that. But we really, whatever the government is doing has to be tailored to suit its environment. Nigerian factor, what I really mean is that anybody who's taking time to set things up right just has to take the time. Unless you just want to hydroplane in, like we've seen in the past, and look where it got us. You know, the president himself said, so all the people that, you call me Baba go slow, so all the people that ran ahead of me, where did they actually go? Nowhere! You know, it almost seems like we're right at square one after all of that, but not to digress, you know, from... So, the next level agenda, I think that, you know, I personally believe, like I was saying, that time has been taken, and this is really my personal belief, I could be wrong. Time has been taken before the new ministers come in to make sure that the permanent secretaries have dotted the I's and crossed the T's, so that we don't come into a situation where, there's sort of an overlap in transparency or documentation and all of that. So I personally believe that this time period has been where, all right, this is where we are now with the last, and it's time for the new set of people to come in. I think that little break in transmission, or whatever you want to call it, I think that it's all well planned. It's not a happenstance, for things to really kind of take off on a very good plane, Then there's going to be the retreat. So everything, as you can see, it's very well planned out and unrolling. So that's a good thing, I think. Yeah, I really believe so.
Okay, when the Senate cleared the last nominee, who are now designated and will be ministers eventually as we speak, the expectation was that the very next day they will be sworn into office by Mr. President. Yeah. But the surprise came that we got press releases from the Cabinet Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, talking about an induction retreat beyond the ordinary. People least expected it, and following up was right then a date to the first swearing in. And a lot of persons did not understand, maybe because maybe it's the first time such a thing is happening. How will it be? Will it still delay? So, induction retreat, back-to-back swearing in. What do you make of it, Chukuli?
Well, I think that the ministers, there is need for them to acclimatize themselves to the new environment they are coming. You recall that many of them are new, and even the ones that have been reappointed, they need to key into the vision of the president, and that vision translates into delivering democracy dividends to Nigerians. Nigerians are very expectant that these remaining 4 years of Mr. President will be used to bring about significant changes in their lives. We need to see that there is abundant food, that security is there, that our economy has improved significantly. We need to see that the anti-corruption fight of Mr. President is gaining momentum. I think this is the direction the new ministers are expected to follow. And I believe that they will support Mr. President in actualizing his vision of making Nigeria a better place for all of us. That is my thinking as far as the new administration is concerned. The next 4 years, they are supposed to put on their thinking cap. They are supposed to set the ball rolling and make sure that Nigerians benefit from governance. Now, there is a new template. That template is the one that is bereft of corruption. Nigeria has to be weaned of corruption so that the money that used to go into corruption can be translated into bringing about development in tangible terms, such as infrastructure for our people. You know that the railways is ongoing, the railway projects are ongoing. And for instance, if Mr. Rotimi Amechi should come back to that portfolio, I believe that he should be able to complete the ongoing projects. And
what if he does not come back? Just ask him. Because
if he does not come back, government is a continuum. Whoever is there will key into the roadmap that is already on ground. He will have no reason to deviate from what the previous minister has already done. So I believe that government is a continuum, and that the next 4 years, Nigerians will witness significant milestones in terms of government achievements.
Okay. We always have this kind of hold-up. It's a common language here, hold-up. When the new government is inaugurated, new ministers are inaugurated, they said, give me some time. But we also boxes, black boxes, brown boxes that were handed over to the ministers. Then they were ministers designate, meaning this is the documents, this is the policies of government, this is the direction of government. Study it. Would they have any excuse assuming office to their various ministries and saying, give me some time?
Well,
because I expect by now, after the induction and subsequent swearing in, they should be abreast of what the direction of government is all about.
I'm personally optimistic that they're going to hit the ground running, you know. Now, if you really look at, you know, who the ministers, I think we have 14 of them returning, and then 27 or so new ones. Now, the new ones, if you really look and see, you know, like Sharonika Azo and so on, they've already keyed in for the most part. You know, those who haven't, who are just coming in for the first time, a lot of them have also been very, I mean, they know what's up, you know, even though they haven't exactly been in public service or in government. So this time it's going to be hitting the ground running. I honestly really have a very good feeling about this second term. Not only because the ministers are really going to be really focused and directed, zero excuses, but also because we have a legislature to work with. You know, I think people kind of underestimate, you know, how important it is, the synergy between the executive and the legislature. People really underestimate the extent of the drag, you know, the whole problems between the executive and the eighth NAS, for example, had on the nation. You know, I think we were too preoccupied with the politics side of it to really understand that this is really so negatively impactful on us as a nation overall, you know, overall. So now that we have that, the NAS has been very categorical, the ninth NAS, in saying that we're not a rubber stamp, we're not at all going to be a rubber stamp legislature. But in the interest of the nation, you know, we're going to work really hard with the president. Those parts where we're going to make sure that we're all on board, you know, and not, you know, being a drag. So I can really see everything really coming together this this second term. I can, when it says next level, we're truly on it. You know, not to be overly optimistic, we're going to get it right. You know, the next 3.5 years is really going to be run, you know. Like I mentioned before, we have also underestimated how deep in a hole we were, you know, when this administration came on board, you know, and you don't run unless you crawl out, you know, you dig yourself out of that hole. So we're done with that. You know, it's in so many ways. You know, I as we were driving over here, I was just thinking about how we take things for granted. For example, you know, we're so, I don't know, for lack of a better word, we're so much about the negatives. But if we put the positives together, you know, the cumulative effect of that is huge. That's the truth, you know, in whichever way you look at it. Even insecurity, you know, everybody's shouting insecurity, and I've responded and saying, if we cut out the rhetoric, even for 1 week, it would give us a clearer picture of where we are, the insecurity we're talking about. But they've, you know, the opposition, let me just come out and call it, they've inundated the space with so much rhetoric, you know, that it's so hard for even the common man who you claim, you know, you're speaking up for, to even get exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. When you say, oh, the sky is falling down and the president is not doing this and people are dying, like I had the IPOB in Germany, you know, I pardon me for being all over the place, but all these things, you know, are interconnected, you know. People are shouting, people are dying every day, and insecurity and this and this. Where? We have, you know, high crime going on, which of course the police now are exerting themselves seriously, as we can see. You open the papers and the, you know, people being caught, criminal cartels are being busted left, right and center, you know, illegal arm makers are being, you know, taken down. Yeah, let's put that focus there. Let's not distract from what is really happening, you know, just because we want to create an atmosphere of gloom and doom and fear mongering. You know, it's not happening. I go to the markets every day. People are doing their thing. People are trading. People are over at the shop, right, and so on. apply a little bit of the universal precaution of safety. Know where you're going, report criminal activity. If you see something, say something. That's what we need to be hearing.
Still on the people.
Yeah.
Let me go to Enekuchi. Normally, when a new team comes on board, a lot is expected from them. What kind of attitude should Nigerians be putting up currently as the new ministers take the mantle of driving their
Thank you very much. Nigerians are full of expectation.
Yeah.
Nigerians are very hopeful that things will get better. Yes, if you consider in the past 4 years, we have made significant progress. But we need to consolidate on that.
Absolutely.
I was reading the Daily Sun, and I saw the sordid condition of roads in the southeast. And then it's very pitiable. And then these new ministers, whoever may be the Minister of Works, is expected to pay attention to such a region like Southeast, where roads are terribly bad, especially federal roads. So these are some of these things that...
but we saw a lot of pictures, a lot of videos in the first term of jobs done in the Southeast.
No, there's no denial about that. I have been to the Southeast myself, and I looked at the Enugu-Port Harcourt Road. The work is ongoing. The Niger Bridge is ongoing under this administration. But there's much to be done as far as roads are concerned in the Southeast. So that is for that particular region. Of course, if you go to other regions, there are other needs that need to be attended to. So these new ministers must realize that to whom much is given, much is expected. They must also realize that, like Caesar's wife, they are expected to be above board. They must eschew corruption. They must key into the vision of the president to make Nigeria a better place. They must be selfless in service. They must serve Nigerians. They must deliver on their various mandates. Provide roads for Nigerians. Provide food for us. Ensure that security is there, that there is light. Look at communication. I understand there's a school in Enugu for the Ministry of Communication, which has not been activated. This school has been completed over many years and left redundant. Is it not expected that such school in Enugu will be opened so that Nigerians can go and acquire knowledge on ICT?
Yeah.
Because when we acquire more knowledge on ICT, we should be able to become manufacturers ourselves, not just consumers of other countries' ICT, like China. China is made up of human beings. Nigeria is made up of human beings. Yeah. Why can't we grow simultaneously or like them? So I think that the new ministers all hands must be on deck to ensure that we don't waste any opportunity to make life better for everybody in Nigeria. Absolutely. That is our expectation.
Okay, though we have touched on it slightly. Now, let me put it this way. Elections have been won and lost. Though we have pockets of petitions at the presidential level, at the governorship level, at the state assembly level, ongoing. But with time, we'll get to know the result. But visibly, elections have been won and lost, meaning the governance space should be administration now. Right. When can we have it that ministers are in office, governors are in office across board, local government chairmen are in office, and we see them running government as government, and not government, say in a particular state, we see government running tied to PDP, government running tied to APC, government running tied to ABGA, government. When can we see that we see governance running as in public governance running for governance? Even when opposition is trying to call attention, because any democratic government must give space to opposition.
Right.
You're being virile, not partisan in your opposition. Right. When can we have that?
You know, I think that in the past 4 years, you know, we've seen, especially on the governorship level, we've seen a lot of governors, you know, and it's become increasingly better, key into the federal government, you know, regardless of the fact that, let's say, the PDP governors, we have to give them some credit, you know, that as far as keying in a little bit, The only time we kind of saw them kind of do the whole politics, partisan politics thing was, of course, during the active election cycle. But we have to give them credit that most of them, and it's gotten much better. Zamfara State, it's a PDP governor there. There's a PDP governor in Bauchi. Even from the south and the southeast. The governors have, let me give you an example. Governors in the southeast actually came together, and that honestly really made me very proud of the leadership that came out of the southeast. Came together during the whole Ruger, problems, and made categorically clear, we don't want any persons seizing this as an opportunity to cause trouble. We want to assure, everybody that we're on board, with the federal government on improving, livestock and everything. We have our plan, and we'll unroll a plan. We have no land, to volunteer to the federal government to set up Ruger, but we have other things in the works which we'd like to, arrange and put forward, and that was quite impressive, to be honest, So with this new term, or this next level we are on, because that precedent has been set, like I said again, credit to PDP for not being, forget about the ones that are on the social media all the time antagonizing and releasing statements and all that, but substantively, there's a lot of key in, less politics and more action, Same thing, with the local government. Thank goodness for what the president has done, which, even though we're still shouting about, what do I call it now?
The legality?
The legality, but...
Autonomy?
But he's done well.
Yes.
I heard first payments or the second payments already went out to the local government.
Direct.
Yes, went out to the local government to be able to let them do stuff in their local governments, instead of being under the whims and caprices of the governors. Same thing with the judiciary. Same thing with the state assemblies. So huge things. The foundations that are being laid are humongous. I'm very optimistic about them. Politics aside, yeah.
You're a journalist before being a politician.
Of course.
And knowing fully well the role of the media. Most of the times you are on a program and people want to blame the media for not giving direction. Because no matter how bad it goes, it's expected that we use agenda setting strategy to give direction and call those on the saddle of governance to order. So what role should the media be playing now?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm not just a journalist, but I studied mass communication.
That's what I say, a journalist could be a politician.
So that being the case, it presupposes that I'm an expert.
Absolutely.
So what I'm trying to say, in effect, is that the media is supposed to play the role of communication development. Communication for national development. In other words, when you communicate, you have to help the government to realize its objectives for the betterment of society. It's not every time that you have to embark on complete or total criticism of what government is doing. No government is faultless. Every government has its own drawbacks. But yet, the media should be objectively critical. But at the same time, communicate in a way that the nation will not atrophy, that the nation will continue to grow, and that development that government is bringing about is really reflecting in the lives of the people. It is the role of the media. The role of the media is not supposed to be destructive. It's supposed to be complement, as the fourth estate of the realm, complement the work of the first, second, and third tiers of government. That is executive, legislature, and judiciary. So the media should be able to crystallize and show direction on where the country must go. Of course, in some circumstances, if the government is making some mistakes, the media can point them out, such mistakes out. But that's where it stops. But the media cannot join in bringing about any kind of destructive tendency in the system, because the media is very powerful. Communication is very powerful. The messages you release are very powerful.
Okay, there came a time when ministers are appointed, and as they are engaging with various departments, various units, various directors, we used to hear then that towards one of the days, the directors come together and they take the minister, show him a structure, this for you, just yourself starting. And now that leads me to the question, the role of technocrats in the public governance process. I know very well when we talk about anti-corruption, for a minister to successfully take away money or misappropriate money in a ministry or an agency, it takes the collusion and cooperation and acceptance by technocrats for that to happen. So what role should the technocrats, because they are the people who are like the back end of the ministers, what role should the technocrats be playing?
Well, that question is a little sensitive.
Absolutely.
Actually, because there's been this whole debate in the public sphere.
Because why is this? Who drives the ministry? The permanent secretaries, the directors, the assistant directors, all that. If they don't coordinate well and guide properly, that leads to a lot of problems.
Yeah, I think
so. What role should they be playing now?
I think that word or that phrase, technocrat, has become I don't know.
Overused.
Overused, you know.
Will you say civil servants?
Yeah, I think that civil servants, you know, everybody who is in public service has a part to play, you know, in making sure that things go successfully. Now, unfortunately, the very people who are in charge, because there's the president, there's the ministers, you know, say in every MDA, I mean in every department and all that. But unfortunately, whether we accept it or not, a whole lot of responsibility lays with the civil service. And everybody would agree with me, for the most part, that one of the things we need the most is to shake up the civil service a little bit. It's almost been like a log, you know. The civil service is like a dark cloud that just wouldn't move away, even if it rains. And I think that, unfortunately, they are really the nuts and bolts, you know, of really a successive government. And I don't care what you call people, you know, I just detest that technocrat, you know, because it's just overplayed, you know. Okay. Any persons who are responsible enough to understand what their role is and to work that role with the integrity that that office deserves would do great, you know. And even if it's somebody that is responsible for doing the cleaning, you know, of a particular place, doing your job with pride and being there every day and not stealing any stuff that people forgot there, all those little things have a cumulative effect of making things work right, you know. So technocrats ain't got nothing to do with it. I'm sorry to just go straight and say, you know, because if a technocrat is not going to do the job right and is going to not have integrity, what are his skills useful for? Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's no going back on this.
Yes.
Whether we like it or not, the train has taken off.
Yeah.
And you just need to catch up with the speed. The next level agenda has to be driven. Well, something came up recently, and I leave that to the two of you. A couple of bills have been signed into law while the ministers have not taken over yet. And we expect that now that they are going to resume their various ministries and whatever agencies they are assigned them, they are going to ensure that these bills that have been signed to law will be driven to the letter. One of the very last before now is the correctional services that have been signed into law. Those some people are arguing that it would have been reformation services. Well, that is for another day, not for today.
Yeah.
You have the one that tends to give some space and greater ambience and sense of belonging to engineers in the country, whereby, except we don't have expertise in that area, then you can think of going elsewhere. So in the era of driving new bills that have been signed by Mr. President into law, even the ones people thought he would not sign arising from topographical errors by the 8th National Assembly, he signed them because governance is a continuum.
Yeah.
So how will we drive the process given all what he has done within this period? Let me take on an equity on that.
Well, you see, it is the responsibility of these ministers to, like I said earlier, crystallize the vision of Mr. President and to also enunciate policies that can actually make their work or the work of the federal government impact on Nigerians. Now, their responsibility will be to implement whatever bills that have been signed into law. For instance, the prison reform bill, which has translated Nigerian prison service to the correctional center services. The new Minister of Interior is expected to hit the ground running and ensure that all necessary measures are taken to bring about the successful implementation of that particular bill, that law. I know that in the United States, there is what they call parole. One of the ingredients of this particular law is that those that have been on the hangman's noose over the years may not after all be killed because they may have opportunity of returning back to the High Court for the court to vacate their death sentence and perhaps reduce it to life imprisonment or whatever the court may decide. So it's actually a very good one. The prison reform bill has come at a very good time, and the new minister should actually have it as his first priority. Then even the Engineers Registration Act, which gives priority to local indigenous engineers, which the president also signed into law. That law itself is very, very significant. It's very good because it will give priority to Nigerian engineers first before expatriates are being recruited into the system. So because we had a situation where companies from other countries used to import even technicians and give them the paraphernalia of engineers, whereas we have qualified engineers in this country that are redundant. So the president, you see, is taking decisions, taking measures that will actually impact directly on Nigerians and make life more abundant. So I expect that the ministers will work harmoniously with the bureaucracy, that is civil service, to ensure that the vision of Mr. President is actually actualized in all sectors. Whatever you're doing in your own sector impacts on the security of Nigeria. If there is abundant food, there will be less crime. If there is a good communication, there will be less crime in Nigeria because the criminal operate where communication is insufficient. And if people are feeding well, you will see less prostitutes on our highways, on our roads, on our streets. You will see less crimes on our streets too. So I think that it's important that the ministers understand the importance of what they are coming to do. They should not take the opportunity given to them for granted. They should realize that Nigerians are anxiously waiting for them to come and deliver on their various mandates. Yeah. They should realize that a lot of people are hurting in terms of hunger, in terms of lack of jobs. And therefore, all efforts must be geared towards providing jobs for Nigerians, towards taking those decisions that will ensure that our educational system is more robust and standardized and can deliver on the expectations of job creators.
One area people have not really taken serious, but I remember vividly a session at the Nigeria State Services Institute, the National Institute of Security Studies. A former governor of Borno State said it was time Nigeria took demography seriously. That if we don't take demography seriously, it will become a problem. That demography is good, it's also bad if you don't manage it well. Now, people and government relationship. When I say people here, people, those who are governed and those who are in government driving the process. Linking to what happened in Germany with the former Deputy Senate President. Government has reacted, government has condemned it, government has said that the government of Germany must do something about it to take perpetrators to book. What advice do you have for Nigerians, both those in government and the people, so we don't lose track of all this?
I think that I'm going to try as much as possible not to, delve into what everybody already knows. That those problems just didn't happen. They started from somewhere. But I'm going to take this from a different angle, which is that we have come to a place where we just do not understand what it means to be a citizen. That in spite of, you can disparage your government, you can disagree with it, but you have a responsibility to love your country. There's no compromise about that. And in fact, we can see, for example, the United States. People get into trouble when they burn the flag, not even from the government, but from ordinary citizens. One kid got knocked down because when the national anthem was playing, he had a hat on. Now, that might be an extreme situation, but America understands citizenship, And we have to get to where we inform, educate, inculcate into our minds, and the ordinary man on the street needs to understand that irrespective of what government comes in, whether it's APC, PDP, or ABGA, whatever else, or ABGA, you need, the one constant that needs to be there is love for country. It should be uncompromising. I know that we get very cynical about the fact that, the government doesn't do this for us, what do we get, what do we not? In spite of that, that doesn't take away the responsibility of loving your country. And what played out in Germany, where a senator of this country it wasn't even the fact that he was heckled, but they got physical. They yanked him, they tore his shirt. That's the ex-deputy Senate president, for crying out loud. And here's the big picture.
And still a serving senator.
And here's the big picture. The entire world would never regard you. When they watch, they think you're a banana republic when things like that happen, in the international sphere. Very embarrassing to this nation. It's a huge embarrassment. Regardless, I have my reservations about the fact that whether we like it or not, we condone and we enable a lot of illegality from dissidents, from all kinds of criminals, and that has to, if this is not an example, I don't know what is. Unfortunately, this same senator, when he was in the Senate as deputy, Senate president, he claims he traveled to the East. He took a delegation to the East to calm nerves when Nnamdi Kanu, was acting up in the East that time, But that was a wrong move. And if nothing else tells us that, this does. You don't play with that kind of dissension. You don't. You shut it out. There are ways and means to be unhappy about what's going on. And what he would have gone to the East or to the Southeast to say is that we are your representatives in government. Come to us with your problems. Tell us, we want, this is what we want, A, B, C, D. We want you to start a process and convince other senators that we need to make whatever. Let me even go ahead and be to the full extent of ridiculousness. We want you to start a process and convince other senators that they need to change the laws to allow secession.
Okay.
That didn't happen. Instead, they went there, placated these people, enabled them and empowered them. They became lionized. Now, from wherever hole he is, the leader of the IPOB is dishing out directives to people who would, react and follow his direction. Okay. That's where we are. Very sad.
On a concluding note, let me say we have tried to go round, but just a snippet, Nekwechi, code of conduct for the ministers. They should not be carried away. They are just admin office, how should they conduct themselves? Just a few words.
Like I said, the way they should carry themselves is that as Caesar's wife, they must be above board. And the president is known for integrity. They should be able to actually demonstrate that in all they do. And then service to the country. They must be able to deliver on projects. Make sure that they work around the clock to make Nigerians happy. They should provide roads for us. Provide houses for us. Provide power for us. Provide food for us.
Get me napping. We looked at, as the ministers assume office, what, and I believe we have tried to touch on the what and give them as a guide. Well, thank you so much, Chukwudi Enekwechi, journalist, politician. It was good to have you on Insight.
Thank you very much.
And Susan Henshaw, attorney and non-profit professionals.
Thank you so much.
Up next on Insight is the media review segment. Don't go away.
Of course, the agenda has been set. Our ministers inaugurated. Now, will they perform? And who will play the role of the watchdog? These are some of the questions my guest on the media review segment will be providing answers to, and is Mr. Victorson Agbenson, editor, Political Desk, Radio Nigeria. It's nice to have you in our studio.
Thank you very much.
All right, with the resumption of our ministers, what are your expectations?
Expect them to hit the ground running.
Okay.
You know we have history before us. This is the second term of the Buhari administration. The first term, there were challenges, hiccups here and there. So this second term, people are expecting that these ministers should hit the ground running because the time is not there. In fact, some persons are already edgy because of the some time lag already. But we're still optimistic that these ministers should make sure that they begin on a sound footing. And so that's what Nigerians are expecting in the various sectors. Principally, they will form the cabinet, and they will expect the cabinet to come out with robust policies that will put the country on a faster track of performance, of development across board. So that's what Nigerians are expecting.
Okay. Now, as someone who is familiar with the political terrain in Nigeria, now, for some of the ministers, it's a continuous process.
Okay, those who are returning.
Yes, for those who are returning.
Yeah.
And for some, it's a different ball game, a new terrain entirely. So how will the media help in relating to Nigerians?
I think the media will help for those who are returning.
Yes.
Is to keep a track on what they've done so far and remind them that it's a work in progress. So they need to focus attention on those areas, on those policies, on those programs that have been enunciated, that have been begun. For instance, if you look at the transport sector, probably two of the ministers in that sector have returned.
Of course.
Not in the actual sense they've returned. Probably they may return to those ministries. It is important for them to continue the work that is going on in the various highways across the country, rehabilitation works by the Transport Minister Amechi. We need to see more of that. We need to see more of that because of the importance of that sector to the economy, to security also. You know, there is a nexus between security and good roads. Then aviation, most likely the man will return there. If he returns there, then Nigerians need to see the good works that we've seen in the aviation industry continue. Probably he may have to revisit the airline issue. Then for those who are coming for the first time,
the newbies,
the media should be able to set agenda for them. Agendas that will help the country overcome its current challenges. If you ask me, I will tell you that top on the nation's agenda now is security. Because the challenges of security is a mouthful.
Enormous.
Enormous in different parts of this country. Before, everybody was talking about the Northeast, but you know, it has spread around the country. With security agencies now taking the bullet, and the security agencies now faltering seriously. You are aware of the imbroglio between the army and the police. Those issues will have to be tackled. A lot of loss of confidence on the part of Nigerians in regards to how they view the security agencies. Before now, the army was seen as the last bus stop when it comes to security challenges. But with the recent event, a lot of Nigerians are beginning to question the loyalty of some bad eggs, allegedly so, in the army. We need to get to the root of these matters.
Okay, now you talked about, for instance, let's say Mr. Michi, transportation.
Yes.
What will happen if he's not the current one?
Okay, if he's taken to another ministry.
Taken to another ministry.
It's still okay.
And what will happen to the projects he has started?
What is important, it's not about the personality. What is important for me is
not
the consistency.
About the
yes, not about personality. It's the consistency of. We must give one thing to the current administration under President Buhari. For me, no administration has done so well in terms of continuing the projects the administration met on the ground. You know, before now, when a new administration comes, they jettison old projects, existing projects, and they initiate new projects. The Buhari administration came and changed that.
Okay.
Projects that were initiated by the Jonathan administration are being pursued to a logical conclusion.
That means continuity.
Continuity. To the extent that it became an issue in the media when the former ruling party, the PDP, will say, these were our projects, these were our projects. You only came to complete it.
Yes.
It's good for the country. Should we have abandoned those projects? No.
No.
If you ask me. So we will need to see more of that. So if new ministers come, they find themselves on the saddle in a new ministry, we'll need to see them continue those very good projects. Those critical projects have to be continued. So that's what's important, not the personality. They can go to any... One thing about leadership, competence in leadership, is that anywhere you take a competent man to, or person to, they will perform.
He will deliver.
When late Dora Akunyele was NAFDAC boss, she performed very well. When she was taken to the Ministry of Information, she performed very well also. So Nigerians have that history going for them. So wherever they go to, I'm sure they will perform.
You're sure they will
deliver.
Perform. You're very optimistic.
I am, because we have seen that Nigerians want progress. And it is time we begin to focus on development.
Okay. Now, as a media practitioner, how do we put the tab on projects?
For us in the media, it is focusing on issues.
Okay.
Those projects, they are projects that will develop the country and benefit individuals in this country. So the role of the media is to focus on issues about those projects. If you talk about security, we know what the issues are. We know the issues of lack of adequate equipment and motivation for the manpower. It's people that shoot guns. It's people that will drive the different equipment and policies that are put in place by the eggheads or the policy makers or the drivers of the levers of security. It's people. So we must place premium on those people. When we talk about agriculture, yes, we will most likely have a new FEC member, Federal Executive Council member, manning the agriculture bit, because the former Minister of Agriculture, immediate part Minister of Agriculture, is not coming back.
Yes, of course.
That's Audu Ogbe.
Ogbe, yes.
So we should continue, the new man should be able to continue on the successes that we've had in that sector. Talking about fertilizer distribution, and rice. So those aspects have to be really, really focused on so that we can continue to grow the things that we eat.
All right, personally, which ministry would you like to see a drastic change?
The judiciary.
Okay.
The judiciary.
Okay, why?
The judiciary is very key. Many of the things that affect us are directly or indirectly linked to the judiciary.
Okay.
Do you recall that Nigerians have gone on several conferences, constitutional review conferences? The last was in 2014 under the Jonathan administration, which I covered. Now, the reason for such conferences is for a better polity, a better society. We have come to realize from what we have seen during this Buhari administration that you don't always need a constitutional conference to make changes. You have seen presidential orders, and some of them are working. For instance, the directive that local government funds should now go directly to local governments. We didn't need a constitutional conference to do that.
At all.
It was a presidential directive. So we need to begin to look at those areas. So for the judiciary, we need somebody who will radically change things in the judiciary. We are talking about making our federalism work, for instance. If the federalism must work, true federalism, then it's the judiciary that will champion it.
Of course.
Yeah.
And we are the watchdogs.
We are the watchdogs. So we have to set that agenda for them.
It has been set. All right, Mr. Victorson, thank you so much. This is the much I can take, really. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Don't forget, we have to build Nigeria together.